The noise, the hairpin turns, spins, and nosedives, the Blue Angels never cease to amaze when they come to the Quad City Air Show. Commander Frank Walleye Weiser performed those jaw-dropping stunts not only in combat and over airfields, but also on the big screen. He's written about his incomparable career, and Weiser joins us by Zoom to share his aviation journey ahead of Veterans Day. First, thank you so much for being here, and of course, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Now, first, just tell us, when did your love of flying start?
Truth be told, on the first flight, I was a Naval Academy graduate and actually had asked to be a Navy SEAL in the late 90s when I was preparing to graduate, and was told aviation was my route. And we come down to this expression, needs of the Navy. And so you can tell them what you want, but they choose it for you. And it turned out to be a real blessing in my life. I was airborne within 5 minutes on my first flight in Pensacola, Florida, and absolutely fell in love with aviation. And now I'm 25 years later, I still do it every day, and it's been a real blessing in my life.
That's amazing. Now tell us more about your career with the Navy flying fighter jets.
Well, interestingly, and I write about this in the book, I have these two shiny objects that are part of my career, and that's 10 years with the Blue Angels and flying in Top Gun Maverick. But for me personally, what I take the most pride in, what I'm most appreciative for, is the time I spent deployed in combat. And so 3 combat deployments, Afghanistan and Iraq multiple times, and having a chance to serve in a meaningful way really matters to me. And so I did that from a squadron in Virginia Beach at Naval Air Station Oceana, and then again in Lemoore on multiple aircraft carriers. And so that was really special time for me and meaningful time. But then certainly flying with the Blue Angels was exceptional for a variety of reasons. Primarily the men and women are the single greatest and most high-functioning team I've ever been a part of. And we did in fact come to Davenport, and I flew the air show multiple times there and loved every second of it.
And what was your experience like seeing Davenport from the sky?
From the sky, it's great. My memory is we would take off out of Quad City and then do what we call a semi-remote show. So we'd fly over that airport. But I remember I also had to land there when I was the advanced pilot to test the arresting gear. And it was a well-run air show. And there's something about being in the Midwest where everybody's just kind of born again hard. If you went down to Florida or the Southeast, and if there's even a raindrop, everyone cancels the day and sits inside. But you could come to your air show and it's sideways snow and rain, and people are out there as if there's nothing wrong and just enjoying the show. So I loved it. The area is beautiful, but once again, like the Blue Angels, it's about the people. And so just the celebration and the welcoming we got there was awesome.
Awesome. Well, now you mentioned a little bit earlier about Top Gun Maverick, and you brought some of those scenes to life in the movie. So what was it like, and what was most memorable?
What was most memorable was flying with, I was primarily flying with Tom, but I flew with Glenn Powell as well. And just incredibly hardworking individuals, really motivated. There was almost an insatiable appetite to do it right, to do it perfectly, and to do it aggressively. And there was, we mitigated the risk by, in my case, I flew all the low altitude scenes because of my Blue Angel time flying at low altitude. So that's a video of me through a canyon with Tom in the back seat. But we were able to do some really challenging flight maneuvers because we leveraged the aircrew's experience. So it was incredible that Tom was pushing and pushing and pushing, but he's a very experienced aviator. And so he knew in a case like this, when we fly over Davenport in an air show, we never have anyone in our back seat because it increases the level of risk. And so to do that maneuver you just saw with someone in the back seat would be incredibly risky if it weren't for his aviation experience and his ability to know when's the right time to talk, when's the right time to be quiet, and how we can work as a crew.
And how was it just working with the actors, with him and having his attention to detail? How was that for you?
Well, it was inspiring, truly, to watch how much of themselves they put into it, how far they were willing to go. There was just no rest on that set. They just pushed and pushed and pushed. And like you said, the attention to detail was first and foremost. I mean, you can watch that scene. We filmed that over a week, multiple times, but you won't see any inconsistencies. And so if we flew in the afternoon and there was a cloud where there wasn't one in the morning, that part would be scrubbed. And so it's really no detail, no matter how small, was ever overlooked.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your book. What kind of topics do you cover in the book?
It's built primarily off of a speech I gave to the midshipmen at the Naval Academy. And I had finished this presentation, and the Naval Institute is a press on the yard at the Naval Academy. And the publisher came up and asked if I would take that speech and put it into a book. I had reluctance about it for a variety of reasons. But ultimately, my wife was the smarter mind of the two and said, they're asking you to write a book. You don't want to write it about yourself. Why don't you write it about the people you've served with? So it became a chance for me to share some stories from men and women I flew with and worked with and led and was led by, and some of the lessons I learned from them. I talk a great deal about focus and how we find focus in our lives, and that focus for me was landing on an aircraft carrier at night or flying in Blue Angel maneuvers. I talk about the trust that has to exist and how we prepare for adversity, because you can't fly in an air show over any city without being ready for any number of things to go wrong. And all of these lessons have applicability in real life. And then for me now, having been retired and working with my own company in general construction and real estate and development, I've been able to use these lessons and apply them to my life, and it's been really valuable. And so I'm grateful for having had these opportunities, and it was a chance for me to share some stories from my friends in a way that might be helpful for other people. And then what was also very critical for me is the proceeds of this book all go to the Wingman Foundation. So all the author royalties go to a charity that is a wonderful charity that supports the families of mishap victims.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your publication, truly, and all your hard work. And we want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your service. Happy early Veterans Day.